So, April 2015, I went to visit Nepal with my then girlfriend, Sophie. We'd been away backpacking for 4 months. We were in the swing of the travel. We just arrived from a 2-day continuous train covering half of India from Mumbai to the Nepali border. We were in Nepal to trek the Annapurna circuit, and we arrived in Pokhara after 2 weeks of being in Nepal to get ready by the lakeside for the trek. After a couple of days of being in Pokhara, obviously the earthquake happened and it was terrifying. The ground was moving, my feet were on the ground but they were moving in different directions. There was dust flying everywhere, and we huddled together with all the other guests that were in the hotel that we were staying in and wondered whether we'd survive the earthquake, basically. In the end, nothing fell down and we were very lucky to not be injured or anything. And we spent 8 days of uncertainty in Pokhara, like trying to figure out how we should leave the country, because Kathmandu airport was damaged during the earthquake and the aid was being flown in, so the airport car park became a campsite for people trying to get out of the country. And we didn't know if the buses would be running, we didn't know if the mountain roads had been damaged, so we had to sit in Pokhara and try and decide how to leave. It was very mentally tough. We eventually decided to get the bus back to India, which was fine. They gave us an emergency 7-day visa, and we went on with our travels. After this happened, it took a long time to get strength back in mentally, and I started to follow all the people that were doing recovery work in Nepal, all the organisations that I could find, and it just really changed my life in terms of setting my focus into helping Nepal rebuild after that experience. I felt really lucky, but also a bit guilty that I was able to leave the country so easily, and that my homes weren't destroyed, and you know, my way of life wasn't really affected by that event. So it really changed something in me. It changed my focus and it changed my mindset. I wanted to build part of my life into helping the Nepali people rebuild. And Sophie designed and illustrated a book to raise money, which I helped her with, and I helped her with a Kickstarter. We raised £3,000 on the Kickstarter to begin with for production, and then currently it's the total after that is at £13,000, and she's helping to rebuild a school in the east of Nepal at the moment. And then when we returned home in February 2016 to the UK, we actually ended up splitting up, and that sent me into quite a dark cycle, and I started to try and rebuild my life independently. And in January 2017 I decided the way to do this was to go back to Nepal, and the idea that I had to find my independence again and to complete something, a challenge, like personally, was to go back and do the Annapurna circuit, which is a month-long circuit just north of Pokhara around the Annapurna mountain range. So I decided to do that, and I flew into Kathmandu on January the 13th, and 3 days later I went out into the mountains and started to trek from a place called Beshashar, and it was amazing to be out in the mountains again and to be by myself with just one person that I'd paid to guide me through the mountains on this trek, and his name was Bajaya. He called himself BJ for short. And so we trekked every day for 10 days. Like on average we covered 15 kilometers and climbed 500 meters every day. And we were hiking in remote Nepal, you know. There was nothing around here apart from little villages on the trail. The roads, it took 15 hours to get from this one town back into like civilization, as they call it, with like concreted roads. These roads were like bumpy dirt tracks through the mountains basically. And after about 8 days we were in a guest house in a place called Lower Pisang, up in this district. It's very Tibetan influence. The Gurung people live there. They came from Tibet in the 15th century and they settled in Nepal. And unfortunately I dislocated my shoulder while I was out there, and there was no doctors in this town. So Bajaya and all the other guides and trekkers, which luckily there was quite a few of us there, because in the places we'd been in before it was just me and BJ and the guest house owners. It was really sparse. So luckily there was loads of people around, and they were watching YouTube videos to try and work out how to put my shoulder back in. And the YouTube videos were loading so slowly because the data up in the mountains, as you can imagine, is not very good. It took them about an hour and 15 minutes to get my shoulder back in, and actually the process of them actually getting my shoulder back in was kind of smooth, and probably the least traumatic time that I've ever experienced. So I've done my shoulder 6 times now already, and I've got quite a few stories of traumatic events in the hospital. After this dislocation I kind of rested for a day, and then we had to trek up to Manang. So the day after dislocating my shoulder I found myself trekking 15 kilometers and climbing 500 meters. Just before lunchtime I got really sick from the altitude, and I started to feel drunk and wobbly and sick, and it was getting really serious. So I rested at lunch and I felt a little better, and I managed to get to Manang. And there really was no other option apart from getting a helicopter back to Kathmandu at this point. It took me a few days in Manang to work out that I had to give up my dream of completing the Annapurna circuit and to turn back for my health and my safety to Kathmandu, which was quite a difficult decision actually, even though it was so obvious. Anyway, this helicopter came to pick us up. It was the most magic experience of my life, just flying through the mountain ranges of Nepal, all the way through all the valleys that we trekked through. So it was like a summation of the last 10 days. And then we flew over the lowlands of Nepal and then back into Kathmandu, which is, from the air, looks vast and amazing. spent 2 days in hospital where they were sort of checking on my altitude sickness, getting me back up to speed, because apparently it was quite serious. When I was in Manang and I was facing the prospect of coming back to Kathmandu, I knew straight away that what I needed to do was go and volunteer to help to build a school somewhere in Nepal. And when I'd made that decision, it was kind of dawned on me that it should have been the obvious choice to begin with, and that I'd talked about doing this for 2 years, and I'd kind of been a little bit stupid to choose the trek over the volunteering experience. I mean, once I got out to the school, it was just perfectly clear that this was exactly what I should be doing at this moment in time, and it almost felt like a cycle in my life was closing.